Hey everyone, welcome back to the Beamer Barn. In today's episode, we're going to be servicing the automatic transmission on my E46 all-wheel drive wagon. And we're going to do that by changing the seal for the selector rod because mine's leaking, unfortunately. And then we're going to change the transmission pan and the filter and all the fluids in there with stuff from Liqui Moly as well. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm hoping that everything goes really smoothly, and let's get right to work. Now, one thing that I should definitely show you before we get started is that I currently have my engine suspended by the engine support bar. You might be asking me why, and that's because unfortunately, I was trying to change the oxygen sensor on one of the catalytic converters and it actually rounded out. So I had to fully drop the subframe in order to get access to that catalytic converter. I loosened all the bolts for it and then I was finally able to get it out of the car. I had to put it on my vise here in order to get a good clamp on the oxygen sensor, and then I superheated the cat in order to make it easier, and finally this thing came free. So here's the old sensor and it's obviously destroyed. I mean, I really had a hard time getting this thing out, but I'm glad that it did come out. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring the header here to an exhaust shop and they're gonna chase the threads for the O2 sensor and make it nice and clean so we can install our new one. But in the meantime, we're gonna go ahead and service the automatic transmission because I saw somewhere online that some people were dropping the subframe and hanging the engine up front in order to get better access to the selector rod seal. So I've got the exhaust down, I've got the engine supported here, the subframe dropped, and I'm hoping that when we lower the transmission by removing the transmission support, it should give us enough clearance to get the rod seal out and place our new one in there. So let's go ahead and hop under the car. I think the transmission cross member is held in by 4 13mm bolts, and let's get those loose and get to work. Alright, so we've got our little shifter arm off. That's just held in by these 13mm bolts. But once you've got it off, you can go ahead and see this thing is covered in oil, and so is this little shifter arm. So we're gonna clean this up real good before we put it back inside the car. But I want to show you all the parts we have, including this seal for the shift rod. So I'm hoping this is the right size because you can't actually get this seal on its own anymore. There's not actually a part number available for it. I think I can't find one on Real OEM, but turns out there are some helpful people on the forums who have given the part number from General Motors for this seal. It's the exact same part as the BMW one, so it should fit good. Now you could get the neutral safety switch and it would come with this seal and actually like an installation piece so that you could install that a little bit easier, but the neutral safety switch is like $170. So again, you can't get this seal, but you can get it individually as a General Motors part, and I'll put a link to this one. I actually got it off of Amazon, so I'll put a link to this in the description below in case you guys are servicing your automatic transmission just like the one that I have. And here is our Miley brand transmission service kit with new bolts, the filter, the gasket, and then here is our Liqui Moly ATF. This is Top Tech 1200, only the best for our BMWs. So now all we have to do is get the old seal out. There's actually a couple of special tools that you could get in order to extract this, but what I think we're gonna do, and this is my go-to trick,
is I'm gonna drill a little pin-sized hole, probably using one of these things as a marker right here, but we're gonna drill a little pin-sized hole, and that is going to give us room to put a screw in it, and then we'll pull the screw out of the transmission, and hopefully the seal will come with it. So wish me luck, and let's see if we can get this thing out. Woo, baby! Beautiful. Well, that just went swimmingly. Couldn't have gone any better. Look at this. Like I said, just tapping a little hole through there and then running a screw in there. It's gonna give you a lot of grip, and then you just pry the screw out and it should hopefully bring the seal with it. This thing literally just popped out, super cake, and you know what? I'm super happy because this is the last mechanical thing that we're doing on the car. After this, it's just a couple minor cosmetic things, and then it'll be ready for sale. And I'm just excited to have the hardest part out of the way with getting that seal out. So now I'm gonna find a socket that's the same size as this seal, and then we're gonna tap it on gently so we can get a really good seal on this thing. All right, so we got that seal installed and just had to massage it in and then tapped it in with that socket. And now we're gonna be able to move on to the rest of the service with the transmission filter and fluid. And I also wanted to mention that we do have a brand new bushing from Cortico to install here. So the old one, as you saw, had a ton of side-to-side play in it and was just bouncing all over the place. So this is gonna be a great upgrade. We just have to get the old one out first. So like I said, let's go ahead and take care of the filter first and drain this baby. And then when we put it all back together, we'll put the new bushing in, and then we'll put the fluid in when the transmission is level and when the engine's running. right, so now we're moving on from the transmission pan and we're gonna do the bushing now. So I'm hoping that this Sawzall is gonna be able to basically cut through one of these slots here. And then we're gonna try to cut through the outer race of this bushing, which is made out of metal. And hopefully it'll help it decompress enough that we can hammer it out. So wish me luck and let's get to work. Well, that was pretty easy. Here are the relief cuts. Well, here's one that went all the way through, and the other one, I don't know if it did. But this thing slid out really easily, so I'm hoping that if we put a little bit of grease on this thing, we should be able to tap it in with our sledgehammer pretty easily. So let's go ahead and install it.
So there you have it, folks. We are all done with the transmission service. Now you will see that I haven't yet installed the fluid in the car, and that's because in order to get the fluid installed in the transmission, you actually have to run the transmission. And obviously, since we have the header missing, we're not going to be able to run the car yet. So I'm going to go ahead and get back to work on the car. We're going to get the header installed with our freshly threaded fitting for the oxygen sensor, and then once we get the subframe back up and the battery connected, we'll be able to run the car. And at temperature, you're going to fill the fluid up in the transmission from this fill hole, and then you're going to run the car through the gears and then check the fluid level again and top off if necessary. So if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like down below or comment if you have any additional tips about servicing the transmission on your E46. Obviously, it's going to look a little bit different if you have a rear-wheel drive car, but for those of you all-wheel drive guys out there, I hope this helped you out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you haven't yet, and as always, I hope everyone has an awesome day. We'll see you next time.